filter sand. It means there's a lateral broken in the filter. Another indication of your sand spitting out is that your sight glass is full of sand. Now, sometimes you'll have sand in there, and it doesn't mean that it's spitting out. It's just from when you did a sand change. So what you could do is take the sight glass off, empty it, put it back on, and if it's full like that again, then there's a problem with the laterals. Another sign is when you're backwashing, and you see the filter sand right there. So we're going to have to take this all apart, this top dial. There's a couple pipes we have to cut. We might have to cut them. So first thing you want to do is take that drain off. And if you can do it the night before, so then just before you go to bed, take that drain off and then do it next day. It's easier to vacuum the sand out. So normally you just have to do hand tighten, that's it. Don't use a tool to tighten it up, because you just over tighten it. Somebody put a tool on this so to tighten it up, because I can't take, you should be able to take it off with your hand. If you can't, if it still leaks, then there's a problem. You have to look at the gasket inside. The top dial, just turn about halfway, then you hear it, the air release out the backwash. It's not a good sign that it's only dribbling out like that. It should come out a lot faster. So I'm kind of curious on why that's coming out that slow. It's probably all clogged on the bottom of this. But it looks like brand new sand. So after you get that off, just put that to the side. Inspect it too, since you have it off. This is a rubber piece here. This is missing, you got to replace it. You can always make it, put a kind of a rubber piece in there. Any type of rubber. So what you want to do next is take the two bolts off on this ring here. So there's this one here and one on the other side. If you have to take pictures, then take pictures. The other side wasn't even on that tight. So you don't lose anything, put everything all the back together. Inspect all these rings, see if there's any cracks or anything like that. Normally not, but, and then put it off to the side. Don't leave it in the dirt. So normally you want a union right here as close as possible, so whenever you do a sand change, it's just easier to take this off. If you want to do it, you can put a union here, but it's connected here. So I'm going to disconnect that. Backwash, disconnect the backwash hose. And then coming from the pump, again, there's a union right here. So I'm just going to disconnect that. Normally you want it short as possible. Like I would put the union here, and then one here, and then your normal backwash hose. Just easier every time you do a sand change. So normally you do a sand change every 3 to 4 years, 5 years. Depends on how much stuff, like how many times your pool go green. Leaves and a lot of debris in it. If it has like it's never really dirty, the pool, then you'll probably have it for the next 10 years. I'll take it off the heater. Whenever you take anything off, there's going to be some O-rings or gaskets. Make sure when these don't drop out. Since you have it all out, then you can just put some grease on that O-ring too. So when you put it back together, again, grease it up. Make sure the gasket's actually there. One at the pump. Inspect the gasket. You put some grease on that one. This one's really dry. Take the backwash hose off. You might have a different setup as this one here, but you might have a solid pipe goes into the drain, but you have to disconnect it anyway. All three. We got everything all apart. So you're gonna try to twist it and up, twist and up. up. So this one's pretty dirty, so we're going to have to clean all this up and then grease on this. This one is inspect this O-ring here. See if there's any cracks, you're going to have to replace it. It's better right now because it's so bad when you clean this all up. Take the gasket right off, clean this all up. There's lots of stuff around here. That's what it looks like inside. Pretty bad shape. And yes, the sand is low in this. We're getting a whole bunch in the pool, but it looks brand new sand. So normally this silica sand, this type anyway, is almost white. Your silica sand, there's some of them that are brown, but I know in this area everybody has the white silica sand. So when it starts getting bad, time to change it, it'll actually turn brown. So we're going to vacuum this all out. If you're just changing the sand and this is not broken at all, that's what we're going to check today to see if this is broken because it's spitting sand. But if you're just doing a normal sand change, do not try to pull this out or try to wiggle it or move it or anything. Get most of the sand out there. You'll know. Once you get down there and you can see the fingers all the way around, you might be able to pull it up a little bit, but don't force it. So get most of the sand out and you should be able to pull it up. And then those fingers, that's what they look like when they're in the bottom. Now you want to fold them up like this. Now just this style here, this Hayward filter, that folds up. Some of them you have to unscrew. So just go around and fold them up and then they'll fit right through here. You have to hose this down and inspect everything. Now this one's bent a bit. Look for any cracks. The most common spot is on the bottom. And as you can see, it's right there. It's pushed down. And it's just from the filter clogging. So if you don't backwash it right away, just the pressure will blow up this bottom. Sometimes they're blown right out. This one's half blown out. This is the new one. And you see all the way around. It's not pushed down compared to the other one. It's cracked right there, pushed down. So get all the rest of the sand out. You can actually move this out of the way, but make sure that the base goes back exactly where it is, just because of the plumbing that you have. Cleaned everything all up. All these tabs have to stay inside that ring right there to make it level. So make sure all these tabs are inside. This one here looks like it's meant for 2 different bases. So whatever this base is here, make sure that the outer ones are all inside. And if it's this one here, make sure they're all inside. There, it's all level. And make sure that screen on the bottom, when you clean everything all out, it's better to get all the sand out of there. That's not clogged up, so it'll drain better if you have to drain it. So before you put the new stem on, you gotta block that off. So what I do is any type of bag or anything like that, just go over top. You use any kind of tape, duct tape, whatever. You're just trying to prevent, when you put the sand in, from going down that tube. Doesn't have to be the greatest. When you put it in, you put it like this, and then you push down all the fingers. So center that, should naturally go center. And then you put your first bag in, but you put it in slowly and then see if that thing moves a bit on the bottom. You want a little bit in there. If you can put a little bit first and then put this in, like maybe just 3 inches, then you can put it on the bottom. Put that lateral on the bottom, level it off just like that. Next is our sand. Half a bag. Make sure that it's sitting level. If you're unsure how many bags you need, the bottom sticker right here, all the instructions are right here, what this filter is, and we need, there's the pounds right there, so 4.5 bags, because they're around 50 pounds each. So this one here, 4.5 bags. And the model number is right there. Now if you're unsure, if the sticker's off, then you just measure the depth and diameter of this. So just measure across this way and then the depth. And the last bag's just going to be a half a bag. Next is put the hose in there. You can put the hose in there and fill it up. Make sure your plug's on the bottom. Don't over tighten it, just hand tight. If it leaks, then you can kind of tweak it a bit with a tool. So next you can take this off. It will self-level anyway. I'm just going to put the cleaned wet head back on. Okay, so it's all cleaned. Took the O-ring off. We're going to grease that up. I'll link it down below with some of this grease that you can use for O-rings. This grease is good for any O-rings on your pool equipment. Put it back. Be generous. I'm like overly generous. Slips back on. Turn it to where it was. And there's a chance that we might have to move something. Yep. As you can see, we could probably get that in there. Oh, that's too much. So I'm going to move that a little bit that way. So we're going to try to get this on first. So if you ever have to move this at all, like inches, not like feet or to another house, if you totally move it, you have to move all the sand out of the way because you don't want the fingers to break. But if you just have to move it a little bit this way, try to move it by the base. Like you got to sit on the ground and then push it. Don't try to push here because it'll tilt. And then same as here, if you push up here, it'll just tilt like that, and good luck trying to get it straight again. 225 pounds worth of sand in there. So try to move it by the base. All hooked up, just snug. You don't have to over tighten that. Make sure you grease that O-ring that's in there. Same as this one here, grease that O-ring in there too. And just snug. Hook up the backwash because we're gonna have to backwash this out because it's gonna be cloudy, so we don't want that going in the pool. So hook your backwash up. Now we're going to put a ring back on. Sometimes you have to put this ring on before you hook everything all up. But here I have enough space. You do the one side equally. Go back and forth, back and forth. Sometimes both sides will touch. Don't force it to touch, just snug it. Now if it leaks, then give a little bit more tweak. But for this particular one, it's probably because the rings are old. Both of them touched. I can't tighten anymore. So if it leaks, then I'm going to have to get a new ring. Now if it's tough to move around this dial, I have a video on this, how to grease this top up, so it's easier to move around. So it's set for backwash, and we're going to turn it on. Turn it on. We're going to turn it off again. Turn to rinse. Turn it back on again. So you're just going to rinse it for 5 seconds. Turn it off. Turn the filter. Could change this dial here. So any equipment like this, if you have to change it, change it. Okay, so let's turn it back on. There we go. Check for any leaks, anything we disconnected. There we go, with filtering again. This thing's super cloudy. So I put a robot in there to help it filter. So with it filtering and with this robot, should be next day. Balance your water, test everything, should be good to go.